So, Seth, thank you so much for spending your morning with me and the audience of the Inside Sharing Show. And we really appreciate your time spending with us and sharing your journey because we believe in great stories. And then you have been having a phenomenal journey and become an expert in customer service and then customer experience. And we want to bring you back in time to study, to know how did everything happen. So we really appreciate that. All right.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
It would be a great honors for our audience if you can do the introduction of who you are and what you've been doing, so that instead of us doing that, can you do it first?
Sure, sure. My name's Shep Hyken. You can learn more about me at hyken.com, Hyken. And if I'm sitting next to you on an airplane and you say, hey, what do you do for a living? I would ask a question rather than give an answer. And the question would be, have you ever walked away from a business, any type of business, and thought, wow, those people are great, or that was an amazing experience? Well, that's what I help my clients achieve, is how they create that amazing service and customer experience that makes customers want to come back.
Thank you so much for do a very quick introduction and then by asking the question to the people next to you.
Yeah,
But that,
I can brag, and I don't want to do that. If you want to find out about accolades, then read the page on my website. I've written a bunch of books. Um, the most recent book titled "I'll Be Back: How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again." That's number 8, and I'm sure there's number 9 on the way sometime soon.
wow, I'll be back is a title of the book. When was it released? And I couldn't see it on online though.
Just about 6 months ago. Yeah,
Oh,
last year,
so
late last year.
we can find it on Amazon and
Yeah, Amazon, anywhere. Yeah, Amazon's probably the easiest place to go to get it.
I didn't see it there. So we definitely will look for it. Seth, we would want to bring you all the way back to your childhood because you shown numerous time that your passion for becoming like in services industry happened when you was a little boy. And what happened back then though?
Yeah, so I was about 12 years old and I started my first business.
Oh.
Now, let's go back even 2 years before that. I was just 10. I started doing card tricks
Oh.
and I graduated into doing other kinds of magic tricks. And by the age of 12, I booked my first birthday party magic show, which turned into be quite a business over the next few years while I was in school. And I remember the very first show that I did, it was after school on a Wednesday afternoon. My mom picks me up from school, drops me off at this house. I go in and I entertain a bunch of little screaming 6-year-old kids.
Uh,
Okay. I had fun, they had fun, and I walked out with a whopping $16. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but back then it was a lot. Now, I came home and my mom asked me, what are you going to do after dinner tonight? And on a typical school night, the answer is homework. But
mm,
she says that will be after you write a thank you note to the
wow.
people that just paid you $16 to perform for their kids. I
Oh.
thought, wow, that's a great idea. So that was kind of like my first lesson in customer service. And it's such common sense, just show appreciation. Then my dad said, that's a good idea, but, take it a step further. In a week, call the parents, thank them again on the phone, and then ask them, what'd you think of the show? Can you give me any feedback? And he
Wow.
said, get really specific. Ask them what their favorite tricks were in the
Uh,
magic show. And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. And he says, what you're listening for is not just the tricks they like, but the tricks they don't talk about. Because if you do this enough times, you'll notice a pattern. And whatever people don't talk about, get rid of it and replace it with something that people will talk about. Now, I had no idea that was called getting feedback, voice of the customer, and of course, process improvement. And so at 12 years old, not knowing what you actually call these things, they're
mm,
pretty darn good business strategies that are actually applicable to just about any and every business today, whether it's B2B, B2C, retail, even the government needs to pay attention to that idea.
mm.
Anyway, so that's where it started. Now, I had no idea, like I said, it was called customer service. So I'm going along. And by the way, I started this business and it became pretty darn successful. And I had other odd jobs, summer jobs, things. My mom and dad always made me work during the summer because they say you can't be a bum and just sit around and do nothing.
Uh,
So, and waiting for the weekend of magic shows meant there were 5 days of sitting around. So I had regular jobs. One of those jobs was working at a gas station. And when I went to college, I ended up working for this station or for this company full time.
Mm.
One of my assignments was on the weekends to work in the stations, while on the weekdays I would work in their accounting department. We had about 100 some odd gas stations.
Mm.
Well, I remember I was about maybe 19, 20 years old. It was such a cold, cold day.
Mm.
And a woman pulls in. She had to be 80 years old at least on the coldest day of the year.
Mm.
And back then, we were a self service gas station, but we had to go out and collect the money direct from the customer. We didn't have the computers and the credit card machines that you have in the gasoline pumps today. So I said to the lady, "Ma'am, stay in the car and let me take care of pumping your gas today. You don't need to get out. It's very, very cold." And she was very appreciative. And I recognized her from being there before. Well, I got finished taking care of her, and I went inside, and my manager started yelling at me, like,
Mm.
"What? Don't you know we're a self-service gas station? You don't pump people's gas." I go, "Yeah, but it was the coldest day of the year, and this lady, she's old. I didn't want her to get out, slip, fall, break a hip, who knows what."
Mm.
Anyway, he goes, "Well, now she's going to expect it the next time." I go, "Yeah." Yeah, and maybe she'll come back here instead of the gas station across the street or the one on the opposite corner because we want her to come back here. And he got
Mm.
mad at me, slams the door, and walked out. And I don't know if he got mad at me because I was right or mad at me because he was finished, but I know this: I felt good. And the next time somebody like her came in that day, on that very cold day, I went out and I helped people pump their gas and I took care of them. I think everybody knew they weren't going to get this when the weather was nice, but it was just a nice gesture to make. And I learned that doing the right thing is really important. I believe that was a turning point, recognizing that customer service is really important.
Mm.
This is what I love doing, is making people happy. And I also learned another valuable lesson as I look back. And by sheer coincidence, we're recording this episode today. Today, I have an article coming out about my the perfect job for me and the
Mm.
lessons I learned from it. And it's this story. But here are two really important lessons. Number one is I'm the guy, and there's millions and millions of people like me
Mm.
that love to take care of people. So
Mm.
if you're going to hire somebody and put them on the front line, find somebody that's passionate about customers. The
Mm.
second thing I learned is even more valuable. Your boss, a leader, the CEO, the owner of a company, an executive in a business, even though they may be really good at business and understand a process,
Mm.
that doesn't mean they're good at customer service. It doesn't mean they understand customer service. That's a different mindset. Process and service. Now, some people are great at putting them together, and
Mm.
others need to stay in their lane. But I know that not all leaders were focused on the customer, as I learned that day. And I reflect back on him and other people that I've worked with, some of my clients, when I see, executives that just don't get why their CEO or their owner wants to invest in a customer initiative. So
Mm.
those are the things I learned when I was young, and that's kind of like my story. I graduate college, and within a year, I'm starting my business on going out and speaking to companies about how to deliver a better customer experience. I guess I took my magic show background, which eventually I got out of birthday parties and started working in nightclubs and
Uh,
corporate events. And I just said, I've got good skills on stage. I'd like to write a speech and talk about this. And really, that's how it all started. Here we are, almost 40 years later, and gosh, 4 decades of doing this. And I'm still not bored, and I'm still excited, and I'm still able to write new material every single week for my articles. I just love this career. I'm very lucky.
Thank you so much for sharing the story. It's very, is very fantastic. But I would like to bring you back into the moment that when you were 10 years old, and then back then, I think I was in the States in 2001, and that's 21 years before. And the service back then is starting to kid off and get better. But then before that time, the service, like the customer service wasn't that good, and the terms
I don't
of
even think it was even called customer service. If
ah
you maybe it was, but it's like as I look back, well, that's exactly what it was.
So what fascinated me was, what your mom and your dad taught you on that very same day. Your mom asked you, you need to write a thank you note before you go into, doing your homework, right? And then your father was asking you to do the follow up and get the feedbacks and whatever is not saying, get rid of that and replaced by the new tricks and stuff. What did they do, and how did they, so that they can have that great sense of services, though?
Then what did they do? Okay,
Ah,
so my dad was in the insurance business, and
ah,
he was really, really good
mm,
at building relationships. I believe that most of his customers, or
mm,
clients, if you will, were actually friendly relationships.
mm,
Not, it didn't maybe start that way, but
mm,
that's how my dad was. My dad liked to take people out, have a fun time with them. It's old school sales.
mm,
But my mom, she's just a smart woman. She always wanted me to be polite.
mm,
I was always the guy that, oh gosh, did I say thank you to them? If not, I'm going to run back and say thank you for giving me a ride home, or
mm,
I just was always appreciative. So I think that so much of what I teach and so much of what customer service is foundationally
mm,
is common sense. It's not rocket science.
mm,
There's a great book out there, Everything I Learned in Kindergarten. Well, I'm not going to say everything I learned about customer service I learned from my parents when I was 12, but if you look back, what did my parents teach me? They teach me just simply to do the right thing, appreciate people, and care, right?
mm,
Those are really good qualities. When you look at the Nordstrom manual, and the policy manual, Nordstrom major high, I say not super high end, but high end compared to like a Walmart retailer selling great merchandise, great name merchandise, and they're known legendary for their service. And one day somebody asked, and their manual is simply something like, do the right thing. You know what to do.
mm,
Something simple, one sentence. And it's like, wow, how do you do that? Well, somebody once asked one of the Nordstroms, I believe it was Peter Nordstrom, how do you hire such good people? And
mm,
how do you train them to
mm,
do so well? And he said, well, we do hire good people, and there's a process for weeding people out. I'll share with you what one of those questions they asked in the interview in just a moment. But the next thing was so insightful. He
mm,
said, we don't train them.
mm.
Their parents train them. We just
Wow.
take what they already know and already are good at, which is caring about people, and
Ah,
we make it work for Nordstrom. The question, by the way, and it's real simple, that they ask their customers, or I'm sorry, their potential employees, is this: what's your definition of customer service?
what's the
Simple
definition?
answer. And
Ah,
there's 100 right answers, 500 right answers. There's
mm,
some wrong ones too. But what they want to hear is what the applicant thinks good customer service looks like, what it should be. And that's a good start of a conversation, to understand, what do you think good customer service is? And when the applicant starts saying something even close to resembling the right thing,
mm.
it's the next step.
Wow, it's a very powerful way to set and to ask the candidates whether or not if they fit into the category that the company is looking for, also, isn't it?
Right, right. And
Yeah.
by the way, that also helps set up the culture.
Mm.
I mean, this is what Nordstrom is about, and that's their culture. If you aren't into understanding what customer service is, so I adopted that question in my interview process.
Mm.
And I asked, how do you define, customer service? What's
Mm.
good customer service to you? I don't want your story about some company that did something nice for you. I want to know what you think
Mm.
good customer service is. And that answer, most of the time, is right. But
Mm.
the ones that have to think about it and say, I really hadn't thought about that before, I'm starting to think, did they do any research on my company before they came to me? Don't they
Ah.
know this is all I do is customer service and experience? How could you not at least understand what that is?
Yeah.
There's the door. Thank you for your time today.
Mm. So, since you're an expert in this, right, we would like to ask you that question though. So, in your world of work, what is the definition of good customer service to be?
Well, first, there's many good definitions, as I
Mm.
mentioned, but I'm going to share with you what my philosophy about
Mm.
customer service is, which might be even more
Please.
important. And that customer service actually is a philosophy, not a department. It
Mm.
is the way people are treated, both internally, call them internal customers, fellow
Mm-hmm.
employees, colleagues, and externally, the people that pay you for
Mm.
what you do, the
Mm-hmm.
way they're treated. And it is ingrained in the culture. It's not just for the front line treating customers well. It's
Mm.
how it happens. On what's happening on the inside of an organization is felt on the outside. So we have to focus on creating the culture. And so I've got this quick little 6-step process. It sounds simple. Sometimes simple is not easy. We got to remember that.
Yes.
You've got to define what you want your vision to be. You want to communicate it. That happens at the leadership level, but then you get into training. And this is where most companies make a mistake. They only train people that are on the front line. Everybody needs to be trained to understand what the philosophy of the culture is behind creating a good experience. Also, when somebody in the warehouse says, why am I being trained? Because I never interact with the customer. You say, look, what if you package the box wrong and it shows up damaged, the merchandise damaged? He goes, yeah. I go, well, you don't think that impacts the customer? You don't have to see the customer to impact the customer. And they go, oh, okay. What happens if you don't tell the people in the sales department that you're running, out of a certain item, and then they keep selling it, and then they have to go back to their customers and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know, when you were supposed to tell them. What happens? You have tremendous impact on that customer, and you may never even see that customer, but you also impact people internally. So we try to teach in that training that everybody's involved. You just train people to what their actual responsibility is. Leadership has to be a role model. That's our fourth step. They have to be really trained, and they have to practice it in front of everybody for everyone to see how it's done. The way you treat me as an employee is the way I'm going to treat my other employees and other customers on the outside. Number 5 is leadership's role is to also keep everybody, departments, regions, if it's a huge company, divisions, if you will, in alignment with what your service vision is or your experience vision. And we can get back to that in just a moment too, is the vision. And finally, number 6 is celebrate it. So you define the vision, communicate it, train to it, be a role model, defend the culture, and number 6, celebrate it when it works. Now I want to get back to the vision thing real quickly, and that is the defined vision is a simple 1 sentence or less phrase. It could come from your mission statement and vision for your company, but it's truly something easy to remember so that we can ask any employee, what's our customer service vision or customer experience vision? At the Ritz-Carlton, 9 words. We're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. When you come to work at the Ritz, you learn that, you understand it, and they train you to it. At our business, it's 3 words. Always be amazing. We want to be amazing to each other. We want to be amazing for our clients, and we want to teach our clients to be amazing to their customers, clients, guests, members, whatever it is that they call the people that do business with them. So I've had issues where I've had employees. One particular one, I wrote a book titled Be Amazing or Go Home because of a conversation I had with this great person. She was working with me for quite a while, and then all of a sudden she started to derail. She was showing up late every day. She was just not engaged. So I brought her in. I asked her what's going on, and we talked a little bit about it. And I said, let's see if we can turn it around. Brought her back in a few days later. It seems to be the same habit here. You're still showing up late, and realize you're my assistant. You represent me. If the rest of the company sees you show up late, they get to show up late too. So what are we going to do about this? We talked, and I said, what's our mantra here at Shepherd Presentations, which is the name of my company? And she said, always be amazing. And I said, do you think showing up 15, 20, 30 minutes late every day is amazing? And she goes, no, it's not. And I go, that's right. So you have a choice. You need to be amazing or go home. And she thought about it. And she said, that is a great title for a book. Guess what?
You wrote that book.
I wrote the book, and I write about her in the first chapter. And really, this book's kind of interesting because even though I try to use to focus on customer service and experience, all of the habits that are in this book, and there's 7 core habits plus a number of sub-habits underneath each of these 7. And there's 35 of them. And really at the end, you start thinking about it. It's like, this is applicable for anybody in any job doing anything. These are the habits that make good people great. Showing up on time, being open to feedback, thinking about quality and practicing quality so it becomes, natural for you to think certain ways, being authentic. While it's great if you deal with a customer service rep or a salesperson that is all of these qualities, really, this is the kind of quality you would want in anybody you do business with or work with. So I thank her for helping me come up with a great title. And then I kind of, behind her back, curse her a little bit because it took me a year to write the book. And it was a lot of work. No, but I love her for it. And by the way, even though she's not with us anymore, it isn't because she wasn't amazing. She turned it around real well. The reason, so there's a backstory here, the reason she was coming in late every day was she moved from being about 2 or 3 miles from where our office is to being almost an hour away for a
Ah.
drive. So she went from a 5, 6 minute drive to really almost an hour. And she was trying to figure out traffic patterns and all that. And we had a great conversation. I said, so what are you doing to try to get here on time? She goes, I leave a little bit earlier every day. I said, see, amazing people don't leave a little bit earlier every day. They leave really, really early, show up too early, and then start edging toward the opposite. And she goes, oh, that's a great idea. So it wasn't like she wasn't being trying to be amazing. She was going about it the wrong way. But I knew that this hour-long drive each way, 2 hours, there and back every day, was going to really work hard on her because she had a family. She wanted to be home for dinner and all that. And I said to her, if you're not happy, let me know, and we'll help you find another opportunity elsewhere. And that's exactly what happened, by mutual decision, not because I wanted her to go. It was a sad day when she left. So love her to death. The story, of course, we kept it short to the point. Some people say, oh, you got rid of her. Others say, oh, she obviously was great. So you have to determine what it is if you decide to buy the book, which, by the way, is also available on Amazon.
I remember that.
Every
Be amazing or go home, right?
Be amazing or go home. I'll be back. Amaze every customer every time. The amazement revolution. What else do I have over there? The convenience revolution. The cult of the customer. The loyal customer. And the very first one, moments of magic.
Wow. How did you find all the time to do all of that, Seth?
So I am a ferocious writer. I write every week. I have multiple articles that come out every single week. I write for Forbes every single week, Forbes.com. I write my own newsletter, which gets syndicated in multiple publications. And I have a number of other writing assignments with other publications. And I just keep my eyes and ears open. And actually, it used to be, and this is a great, great thing. I think this is really important for any business. If you need to stop thinking of yourself as whatever your company is, you're also something else. You're also a media company, especially entrepreneurs, but any company can be a media company. And what I mean by that is, hey, we may sell office items, okay? But how am I going to get you to come to my store, to know what it is that I have, to get you excited about the new products and new technology that we're selling? I'm going to communicate with you, and I'm going to communicate with you via newsletters, maybe videos on YouTube, maybe I'll write a blog. What happens is we become media companies. We don't realize we're media companies. And I realized about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, that's what I needed to become, was a media company, not a customer service experience consultancy or a speaking training company. That's what I need to do. So I used to spend, I'm going to say, I try to make, especially when I first started, probably for the first 15 years I did this, maybe even longer. Every week, a minimum of 100 calls. I didn't talk to everybody. I probably talked to maybe 10 or 12 people out of the 100 calls. And out of the 10 or 12 people, maybe 15% of those, so maybe 1 or 2 people might actually be interested in what I do. And then if they were interested, I might, maybe 1 in every 8 to 10 people would actually hire me. So it's a numbers game. You figure it out, right? But this is how I started my business. I started basically calling companies. I went to the newsstand, pulled a bunch of ads out of magazines, from business magazines, and went to the library. There was no internet back then. I looked up all the addresses and phone numbers, and you could also get the names of the executives depending on what and how you research. And I would just pick up the phone and smile and dial and introduce myself. And I started with a list of 200 people, and I remember getting my first speaking engagements from that list, and I kept doing that. So every year or every week, I was spending probably 6 hours a week, at least, maybe longer, 8 hours a week, devoted. So that's almost hour and a half to 2 hours a day, devoted to nothing but selling. This is important, selling and then spending time on marketing. Well, today I don't spend as much time on the phone. I do talk to clients on the phone when they're interested, but I don't do the outreach like a cold call, if you will. Today, and by the way, we do use LinkedIn as a way of getting business, but today, more than anything, I spend that 6 hours writing. I write articles. I shouldn't say writing. I create content. I write articles. I create posts for YouTube, video posts. I put posts on Instagram. I put posts on Pinterest. We have 1 million people a year that look at the pictures that I put on Pinterest, pictures of my books. I create memes from quotes that maybe in an interview I'll say something, or maybe who I'm interviewing will say something, and I'll create a quote, a meme out of that. So I am a media company, constantly putting content out there. The result of that gets my phone to ring or my email inbox to fill up with people that are interested in hiring me to either speak at their event or one of our trainers to go out and do customer service training. We even have on-demand video-based training that companies can use now. So that's what drives the business, is because I've recognized that, yes, I'm a customer service and experience expert, but I'm also a media company.
So, but it's made me to the curious question is that if you start by providing customer service, then you teach people how to do a great customer experience. Now you make your company becoming a media company. Uh, is that maybe a potential future evolution for customer service that the clients need to like embody into their companies?
Well, here's the thing about, if you want to create a great experience, look at what some of the good companies out there are doing. They have a presence, a social presence in social media. If you want to learn, like Nike, for example, Nike's, we'll call it loyalty program or membership program. You don't get points for buying anything. You don't have to pay to be in it either. But what they do is, once they understand what you like, they only provide you with information and content that is relevant to you. They're not going to sell me, football shoes if they know that I play basketball. Okay, they're not going to sell me wrestling shoes if they know that I'm a runner. Okay, so they know what I want and they give me what I want. And I think all companies need to be thinking that way. The other thing that I thought was brilliant is a company I work with, Salesforce. And when I first started, before I ever worked for them, I was a customer. And I remember talking to the sales rep. Now, I'm a tiny little guy. I'm not an enterprise solution. I have a small company. What happens if I need help and support? I mean, do I have to submit a ticket and wait 48 hours? They go, no, no, much easier than that. Just go on Google and type in, how do I do blank on Salesforce CRM? And these videos would pop up on YouTube that were created by Salesforce, as well as customers sharing their ideas on how to make things work. This is great. Almost every question that I had, how to fix something, how to make something work, there was a video tutorial. To me, Salesforce recognized they don't just sell software, they're not just a CRM, they're also a media company. They put the right media out there to make that customer have the best experience.
I will tag my friend onto this post. She's the executive director at Salesforce at headquarters, and then she would love to hear this one. So, so thank you, Seth, for sharing that. I know that we're getting out of the time already, and then you have other things to do. So, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing your stories. I would love to visit you again for some time in the future, and then we can discuss about service in the deeper level. And Seth, thank you so much for spending your time. Thank you so much for doing all the amazing things about and help clients to uplift services to their customers and keep doing that. We really appreciate that. Okay.
Well, thank you, Ha. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on the show, and I look forward to coming back and doing it again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day there.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.